Hello, welcome back to Star Wars Minute. It's the daily podcast where we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate the Star Wars movies, 1 minute at a time. I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
I'm Alex Robinson from AlexRobinson.fun.
I'm Greg Wyshynski, an accomplished writer who's never been invited to participate in something like From a Certain Point of View because I write about hockey and therefore get pigeonholed as a sports writer and not seen as anything but. From ESPN.
Wow, coming out swinging.
I was just thinking about it at the end of the last minute. I was thinking to myself, like, I remember like seeing the books come out and being like, I'd love to take part in something like that, but I'd never get invited because they would be like, what are you going to do, write a sports story about Star Wars? Like, no, man, I'm going to write some stuff about an Ugnaught.
Well, you're preaching to the choir here. I'm sure Pete and I are both nursing resentments that we were not also invited to contribute to the book. So.
Yeah.
We'll make our own grassroots Star Wars book. Yeah,
we could do that.
I made two leaps there, and I'm trying to think of the. I can't think of any of the fictional sports teams from Marvel, but I do know that there was
Kickers Inc.
Like, well, that besides that, but I know that there was once there was a clearly laid out divisions and everything for the hockey league in the DC universe.
Wow.
It was like the team names for the different teams and what it was probably written out in the 70s. So there were maybe a dozen teams, 16 teams, but it was like the Gotham Blades or something like that.
Briefly, the greatest comic book hockey crossover ever was, and you remember this, Pete, the Guardians Project, in which Stan Lee was hired by the National Hockey League to create comic book characters for all of the teams in the league. And what Stan did was say, I know what I'll do. I'll simply take existing IP and change the colors to then give all these characters new life. So the Coyote was legitimately just Wolverine. Right. There was a guy who looked exactly like Cyclops from the X-Men, and so on. There was a guy who looked like Swamp Thing, so on and so forth. The entire thing was a colossal failure, lost millions of dollars for the NHL, and is never spoken of again. But that is the greatest comic book hockey crossover of all time. Besides, obviously, Casey Jones from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is up there as well as the greatest hockey comic book crossover of all time.
I'm typical late Stan Lee model stuff where he's just I don't know, here's a name and kind of a look of what he's like, and then that's it. That's the entire depth of the character. You know what I mean? It's
exactly
he's called this,
one power,
and he looks kind of like this, and he has a single power that's kind of related to something. That's it. That's all you're getting. There's no what's his story? Nope, nothing.
Yep.
Just purely a name. Which, I mean, granted, if you got to come up with 32 different characters, but that's why they're paying you. Yeah. That's what your whole reputation is based on. You know what I mean? Hey, I create universes. Great. Here's millions of dollars. Do it.
Which Stan? What do you envision for Toronto? How about we call him the Maple Leaf? And he's he's bitten by a tree, and he gets extraordinary power with great responsibility. Stan, you've said that now for the last 18 teams.
Responsibility.
He said, I thought maybe we were getting out of hand when you said that the guy from New York was bitten by a ranger. Just kind of strange.
Well, what do you think? Should we talk about Star Wars a little bit?
Sure, why not? So you're I don't want to get pigeonholed into being the sports writer guy, and then we're just talking about sports. We're talking about fictional sports for
the entire
minute. Let's talk about minute 122, sports-free minute 122 of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. It starts with Mrs. Daisy telling Poe he's not going to make it, and it ends with Finn saying Rey one last time.
Mm-hmm.
I think he might be able to squeeze one more in there, but as is his character, speaking of Stan Lee style characterization, he just runs around and shouts Rey an awful lot in these movies.
It's like his I am Groot. He just says Rey in different tones, and people know what he's saying.
So let me heap some praise on this movie for a second.
Sure.
In watching this minute again, I don't know if it was because when I saw Rise of Skywalker for the first and only time in the theater, I had just reached my end when it came to this entire thing of space horses and people running around the hull of a Star Destroyer and all of it. Like, I just didn't care anymore. That being said, watching this back, it's really kind of dope to have people leaping off a Star Destroyer that is pointed down into a planet and it is about to just explode, and they leap off this thing onto the Falcon and it rescues them, and then it flies away as the Star Destroyer is exploding. Like, I don't know what it was about my complete depression and apathy at that point in the theater that I didn't really appreciate the majesty of that shot, but it's pretty cool, that moment when the Falcon saves them. I gotta admit.
Yeah, I think the adults part of my brain is like, this is the silliest thing they've ever done in one of these movies. Like, the wind alone would blow them off the Star Destroyer, but the 10-year-old in me was like, that was awesome. So I got the tie goes to the 10-year-old.
So you got him a TIE fighter too?
Damn kid, put it on wings.
That's what these movies are for.
Yeah.
The 10-year-old inside you. So
totally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then like you get a different perspective. What was the name of the flagship, Vader's flagship? The Executor, was it? Or
exactly.
Yeah, when that crashes into the Death Star and like you get a different perspective of that Star Destroyer destruction from it being pointed down. It was really kind of a cool shot. I
do wish we had seen it also from far away. Like, the shot they have is cool, but you generally only see it from that one angle. I would like to see more coverage on shots like that, but
yeah.
I would like, again, maybe in the future when we get everything streaming, you could branching, you can make your own cut of whatever. I would like to add maybe like a Family Guy style shot of like cut to like the one guy in Exegol who like didn't get collapsed in the arena and he's going back out trying to find his car out in the Sith parking lot. Finally he finds it, and as soon as he gets into it, it's like the sky goes dark, and then boom, the Star Destroyer just lands right on his car.
That reminds me of the time a Star Destroyer fell on my car.
Right, yeah.
So, as we mentioned in the last minute, thank God for Lando coming in and Poe's like, I'm going to save these two people in a one-seated starship. And Lando's like, baby, I got myself a much bigger starship than you. And then he comes in and swoops in and saves the day. It doesn't require either of our heroes to try to like cram into R2's hole on an X-Wing to try to escape the Star Destroyer, because the Falcon has got ample space for multiple people. You could have put 10 people on that thing, like we saw at like the end of Last Jedi. So that was good. Rebellion. I'm happy somebody came. Yeah, the entire rebellion. I'm happy somebody came and decided this is a real dumbass plan you come up with, Poe. I'm going to come in here and really save the day.
I have to say, R2's hole, that's the tiki bar that he opened after he retired when this movie was over. Yeah.
I agree with everything you said. Although this is the third time that Lando has used Poe, his despair, as an excuse for Lando to come in and be like, you know what? I got you covered. Like, this is the third time he's done it in the film. It's really funny, I think, in that regard. Like, Lando's always listening and waiting until Poe is at his lowest. Okay, now I go in.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, like, it's a classic cool guy move, and Lando's the coolest guy in the galaxy outside of Han, right?
Now that
it's
Han's
like,
dead, yeah.
What do you do?
Right.
Yeah.
He inherited the title.
Now he makes him the coolest. So what do you? If you're the cool guy, what do? You identify the guy who thinks he's the coolest, Poe.
Yeah.
And then you just be cooler than him. And now and now look how good you look. Look how smooth you look. You look great.
You hang around Poe, everyone looks cool.
Yeah. I am a little bit disappointed, because Lando's like. This is the second time that we see him rescuing people, flying the Falcon under somebody to catch them in the saga, and I'm a little bit disappointed we didn't get to see the Lando hatch in this one. We saw it in the beginning when they go out and they talk to Bulio and they run a cable and all that stuff. We saw it in the beginning of the movie, but would have liked to have seen them, climb back in through the Lando hatch. But sorry,
yeah.
Minor.
How did they just kind of climbed on the Falcon and climbed in themselves, right?
I think you see
They
Chewie.
popped the cockpit open on its hinge. And they sat in
Do
the
we
little
see
seats.
Chewie bring him in?
I think you see Chewie's head. You see the hatch open, and you see Chewie's head stick
you
out
do?
and stuff.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure
all right.
because he's not in the. I think you see him get up and go, and then in the next shot they're going. And then when they're walking back, when he goes Rey, Chewie's standing behind them, so he's like escorting them back, make sure they don't take anything.
He's like, move it, come on.
Yeah.
I was hoping that like Lando gets on like the loudspeaker and just like, there's a little hole back there called the Lando hatch, baby. Just climb on in. Smooth sailing after that.
Make sure all your capes are in the hatch before you close it.
Right. Anybody have any capes they want to hang up before we go to the front?
I was gonna say, you mentioned Finn saying Rey again when they're back and safe on the ship. My favorite moment of that is when Jaina, sure.
Jaina Jameson.
Here's
Zan and Jaina, the Wonder Twins.
Here's him say Rey, and then she like looks back at Chewie to get Chewie's reaction from hearing him say Rey. She looks back at him. She's like, "How should we feel about this?" Like, why are you asking him?
Which one was Rey again? That's what she's saying.
Don't worry, he's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, Finn at this point, it says Rey, and this is the first real hint. This is the first hint we get as to what the big mystery that he was hinting at earlier in the film, and now we're suddenly like, he has a life alert on Rey.
Close as we get to like an answer to a finite resolution as to what was he going to tell Rey when they were sinking in the coffee beans.
But you could still get around it by saying that it's Rey's force that is going out, and that's what he's sensing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then other people would be like, "Oh, Rey." Like,
right?
Everybody would be walking around going, like, "Rey."
I prefer to think that, Alex, because otherwise, look, it's canon that if you are force sensitive, there needs to be at least a 10-minute scene of you trying to move something with your mind in one of these movies or TV shows.
Yeah.
So we didn't get that with him. And so he can't be force sensitive.
So yeah, you're saying he's still, if anything, he might be pre-sensitive, but not in this.
Yeah.
Pre-sensitive is an odd.
I think it was funny
phrase.
that it's in the original Star Wars, the motion picture, when that's the first time we see someone sense someone's death. We see Obi-Wan swoon after Alderaan gets blown up, and his sensing is very vague. He's just like, it's like 1,000 voices cried out in terror, and we're suddenly silenced. Not, oh my God, Bail Organa is dead, or even, oh my gosh, Alderaan blew up. Like, it seems like nowadays force sensing is a lot more focused than it was back in the day.
Have we ever talked about hardware wars on this show together? I forget if we have or not.
It's come up a lot, but I'm sure. Always happy to return to hardware.
One of my single favorite gags in that thing was like they have their Obi-Wan character start like putting his head to his hand and and then the Luke character is like, what is it? Is it as if thousands of voices were screaming out in terror and were suddenly silenced? And then their Obi-Wan guy goes, no, just a little bit of a headache. So good. So great.
See, now they use the Force to heal that. That joke wouldn't work anymore.
I think maybe if Obi-Wan had a connection, like if there was somebody he was like, if his Padawan or whatever was on Alan Alderaan, and it blew up, then he would be able to be like, oh, like so and so is dead, and also other people there's but like just I think because they're in hyperspace. And because he doesn't have like a tight connection with anybody, it's just kind of like, oh, I'm getting a weird
It's like, wait till I get better reception and I can give you more details.
Yeah. What is it? Wait, who died? It's like me talking to my mom while I'm driving in the car. Wait, who?
Oh.
No, I don't remember them. Who died?
Bad news, everyone.
Oh, okay.
Alan Alda died.
What else do you know, Ben? I'm in airplane mode at the moment. I can't tell you more.
Bail Organa seems to be trending. I'm not sure why. Hang on, I'm trying to find the original.
So
it turns out it was just his birthday. It's okay.
Are we counting this as the death of Rey right here? Are we counting this as Rey's the third death?
Well, first, before she dies, I do love she's got like a Veronica Sawyer moment where like the smoke clears and you see she's all like mussed up and kind of like Yosemite Sam'd a little bit, and I really expected her to just pull out a cigarette and like walk down the steps.
I'm calling it as a death. She seems dead.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think she is.
Yeah. Greg,
now you got me thinking of Christian Slater, and then you're thinking of Christian Slater as Palpatine. If we're gonna recast Rise of Skywalker as Heathers.
Wait till they get a load of me.
Dyad. Oh, interesting. Dyad.
Yeah, I can't believe they killed her off, though.
There you go. Man, never to be seen again.
Yeah.
Rey. So long, Rey. It's a shame about her.
She was the original.
I'm trying to look.
She was
I'm trying to see what exactly how exactly they describe this.
Sweet baby Rey.
How do they describe it?
In the expanded edition of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker by New York Times bestselling author Ray Carson. But it basically just says like she flopped. No, wait, what is it?
That's not a very dignified way to describe the death of the hero. She hears the clink of her lightsabers hitting the ground. When had she let go of them? She reached for the Force one last time, and then the song played. Some of her friends were surely... That's one more time, I'm sorry. Some of her friends were surely still up there somewhere. She sensed Finn and Janna. Giving absolutely everything was no big deal at all compared to saving her friends. She reached for Ben too, but her legs gave out and she crumpled to the ground. And then, let's see, when Ben makes it to her, I don't know how... Well, it's a spoiler alert. Sorry. We're going to see Ben. Ben Kenobi? He's here?
Where is he? I know, Augie Bendoggy, actually. Was
not okay. venerable member of the Red Eye Knights. Let's not do hardware wars because we're going to have to do a whole bunch of other minutes. I had that thing memorized as a kid.
We should do hardware war minutes. That'll be our next.
Yeah, that's like, isn't it only like 8 minutes long or something like that? Yeah, perfect.
Good stop.
The minute starts with Chinchilla the Wookiee monster trying to eat Princess Leia's hair, and it ends with an iron shooting lasers at a waffle maker.
Look at that. We've already got a guest who knows the stuff. This project is planning itself.
Perfect.
Well, so Rey is dead.
I don't feel so good myself.
Lando has saved Janna and Finn from their crashing ship. And that's pretty much it. But all I had for 122. Do you guys have anything else specific to this?
No, I guess Janna's like the consolation prize for Rey, for Finn. It's like, well, Rey's dead. At least I got this new girl now. Kind of works out for him.
Right. Right. I met somebody new.
Yeah.
I liked Rey's boots. Should mention that as well. They were cute little boots. They're fashionable. They're fashionable little boots. Imagine she went to the Space Mall and found them in the Space Mall because they were cute.
In the Space Mall catalog while she was flying from planet to planet. She was like, "Oh, look at those."
In previous seasons, I've asked guests to pick out their favorite Leia outfits and stuff like that, but Rey's outfits are all kind of similar. You know what I mean? They're all
the same.
Bandages around her arm, bare kind of shoulders, long. You know what I mean? Vaguely,
tunic,
Japanese looking,
a little bit different shades of Pittsburgh appropriate, different shades of beige. There you go. Sometimes we'll mix a little gray
Skywalker
in there. Yeah.
That'll be her name in the Mad Magazine parody. I'm sure they haven't done it yet.
I kind of feel I like Rey's character. I hope that eventually, provided she returns from the dead, that we get to see more of her in the Star Wars universe. But one of the things I really liked about her was talking back to Force Awakens was her being a rebellion fangirl, like putting on the X-Wing helmet and stuff like that. Like, it would have been more fun. It would have been really kind of fun to see her sort of more in awe of her space adventures. I don't think we had enough of that from her.
Yeah, she matures pretty quickly. She goes from being like in awe to being the wise master pretty soon.
Right.
You know,
she got grossed up pretty quick in these movies, so that's tough.
She should have been like pointing at the other, like maybe while she was lying down a couple minutes ago, just staring up into the sky. She should have been like, "Oh, look, that's a classic Star Destroyer design." But they've added
she should always be pointing out things that she's never seen before. You know, like
right.
I've never seen a cactus before. Cactus. I picked the one thing that would grow on a desert planet. That's all I got for minute 122.
Yeah, obviously. Good note to go out on.
Totally.
Greg, real quick, did you you mentioned that you have some things that you like about this movie, but overall not your favorite. Did you see it in the theater when it came out? If so, where?
I did. I saw it opening night, and I was pretty spoiled for it. Like I was reading Star Wars leaks on Reddit, I think at that point, to follow along with what this movie was going to end up being, and then the plot leaked there, I think a few weeks before the movie came out. So I was prepared for what it could be, although none of us really knew if that's going to be what it was. And the leaks were pretty on target. Yeah, that's what it was. No, this movie, look, I work for Disney. Movie's great. Movie's not my favorite. Not even in a you can still watch it for goofy kicks way, like you can with some of the prequels. Like I find this movie to be like really boring and overwrought and unsuccessful. And obviously, like, part of that is the movie that we probably all had in our heads that we'd like to see finish off the sequel trilogy. And then this movie wasn't that. And I freely admit that that's, probably poisoning the well for me a little bit in my enjoyment of the film. But also it's just not good is the main problem with it.
They really, between the corner that they kind of painted themselves in with the previous two plot-wise, and then also just the weight of everybody's expectations, there's no way that this movie could have been successful.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, I can't imagine what it would have to be in order to be.
There are very few trilogies that manage to pull off, stick the landing, having all three great films, The third one tends to be the one that kind of is the weakest of the three. So,
but I also agree with the idea that like
Jaws.
Bringing back Palpatine is such a self-own, because like it does impact the end of Jedi, Return of, and Return of the, and it's just kind of a bummer. Like, I understand the idea of making him the big bad and you want him to be the final boss and all that other stuff, but like, you didn't have to. Like, you had set up Kylo to be a really fascinating character for 2 movies, and you could have seen that all the way through while also finishing off the First Order stuff and not had done this. And also it has that terrible symptom of sequelitis of like bigger, badder. And we already saw a little bit of that in Force Awakens, where it's like, what if Death Star but a planet? And now it's, what if Death Star but all of the Star Destroyers?
Nothing but dust.
Like, it's just dumb. It's just stupid dumb, and I didn't like it, and so it's a bummer, because like, again, every Star Wars movie, good, bad, or otherwise, every Star Wars show, good, bad, or otherwise, maybe not Boba Fett, has rewatchability because there's some like quirky weirdness to it or fun to it, and this one is just like, it's a slog, and maybe there are like 3 moments you want to revisit, and that's about it.
You felt that way right from the start, from the first time you saw it? Or did you have like a honeymoon period where you convinced yourself that you liked it more than you have since?
No, I actively disliked it while I was watching it.
Right.
Like, it just did not come together at all. there were times I remember sitting in the theater and being just like, why are we doing this? What is this? Why that? Wayfinder? It's where? No, none of it.
You're watching it with Bob Newhart.
Yeah, none of it was good. Like, it introduced all of these things that didn't lead anywhere. There was a person who murdered Rey's parents, and the ship is on the thing, and there's a what?
Let's turn it around. What are your three favorite things? What are three things you like about the movie? Even I can do that.
Well, I mentioned.
That's
mentioned
Patreon content for him.
Yeah, I mentioned on the previous show that the previous minute that I wrote. It's on the Puck Soup Patreon. 5 things I actually liked about The Rise of Skywalker, and the subtitle was after my second and potentially final viewing, because I did watch it again at home.
Yeah,
and the 5 things were Exegol, which I extolled the virtues of last episode.
Mm-hmm.
I was excited that Jodie Comer was in the movie for 2 seconds because I was really a big fan of Killing Eve.
That's Mrs. Clone. That's clone of Mrs. Palpatine clone. Right? She's the mother of Rey's mother. Yeah.
Right. I was happy that Dominic Monaghan had such a silly scene where he talks about the secrets of the Sith. The Wayfinder itself, I thought, was really a great MacGuffin. It was such a dumb concept, but it was sort of a fun thing that it kind of and maybe this is because it reminded me of the overthruster from Buckaroo Banzai, like a thing that you plug into your vehicle and then it does something. And then like my favorite character, I think, of the sequel trilogy outside of Kylo was Poe. And Poe had a lot to do here. And there was actual attempts at character development with him and like Mandalorian Kerry Russell and like all that other stuff. Like there was, I don't know. I liked hanging out with Oscar Isaac for a little bit too. But everything else stunk. But the Ben Solo stuff's good. There's just not enough of it. It happened way too late. Again, like it is one of those cinematic experiences where if you gave me Zack Snyder Justice League Snyder Cut money and a scalpel and Final Cut Pro, I'd love to be able to figure out how to make a better movie.
Head to Costa Rica and we'd never hear from you again.
Yep. That's right. You would. That's exactly right. As soon as that money hit my account, I'm like, so long, suckers, enjoy Rise of Skywalker the way it was always intended.
Not going to interfere with the artist's vision. Yeah. So I, for the most part, I do like this movie. Not the end. Not this like last act. But for the first 2/3 of it, I like it. I think it's goofy fun. But once you said it, it kind of unlocked something. And I'm like, wait a minute. I think that's the thing. As much as I defend the choice of like somehow Palpatine returned, we don't have to know why yet. Great, sure. But I think it would have been better without him. Totally, if you just not replace him with another, spooky big bad guy. Just have it be Kylo Ren and have basically instead of this big wizard battle at the end with if you just move that scene that she has, the duel that she has with Kylo Ren on the wreckage of the Death Star 2 or Death Star 2, yeah. Move that battle to Exegol, and then she wins and like heals him, or work it out somehow with that it's like similar kind of moment where it's like they have their reconciliation at the end. Maybe like he gets run through, and then that's when Leia appears to him, or Han appears to him rather. That would be more satisfying probably, but
sorry, go ahead. Simple fix.
Remove the Emperor and that kind of big bad from the whole equation.
Keep Exegol. Keep the Ghost Fleet, like the Dreadnought fleet from the Zahn novels. Like that's a really cool concept. Don't give them all Death Star lasers. That's stupid. But keep the Ghost Fleet. Have the First Order searching for it to be able to create their giant final assault on the rebels, and then eventually like have the turn. Have the Ben Solo turn and have him and Rey team up to finally take out the First Order, and then just have him die. Like you still have him die. That's fine by me if you wanted to do that. I mean, he is a space Nazi. You can.
I'm
You don't have
against
to
him being
redeem him.
redeemed. I'm against him being redeemed.
Yeah,
but
so, like-
Disney would never do that. They would never have a character like that and just have them die evil. It would just,
Are you? But Alex, are you against him ever? Like the moments in which he at the end has come to grips with who he is, and he's doing little Han movements with his body, and like he smiles at the end. Like those are really lovely moments. But I think the way the movie handled it, one, they did it too late, but the way they handled it with like him being that person, but also not surviving the film, I think is the right move, as much as it pissed off Tumblr.
they couldn't even think of anything for him to say in the last third of the movie. And then what? They're going to have him live on after that? We wouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
You know?
We'll get there.
So would you just have him never redeemed at all, Alex? Would you just
Yes.
have him never like find the
I would
Ben
have
Solo
him die.
inside of
It
him?
would be like tragic. It wouldn't be like, yeah, we're glad we killed him. He would die as a result of his own hubris or something like that. It wouldn't necessarily mean Rey has to kill him. It could be, he has this
Right,
new
have
thing
it
and he
be-
thinks is going to make him super powerful and it winds up killing him or whatever. But because I feel like
Or
also
some like
the whole thing with the dark
Yeah.
side is it's if everyone can just do it and then get redeemed and then you can do whatever horrors you want while you're on the dark side and then you're suddenly like, oh, now I did one nice act, so I'm redeemed and therefore I'm not responsible for all these killings I did prior to my
Right.
redemption. It's just kind of like weak, but
Sounds a
I'm
little
with
bit
you,
like
man. Like,
something
give
else
him-
that
give
I've been
him
told
his-
in my life.
give him his like I have the high ground Anakin moment where his hubris is the end of him, and his ego is
Right.
the end of him. Like
yeah.
that'd be great.
And have him, be on, like, kind of walking the line a little bit. Have it be tempted by the light side, but then,
Oh yeah, there
Commit.
should definitely be some
Hardcore commit.
conflict in there, but
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and then here
All right, well-
in the 2 hours before that, make a good movie that doesn't make me feel terrible about
Yeah.
everything.
I think that should be on the number one on the list,
Well-
frankly, if you're going to change things. That should be the number one thing.
Step
Anyway.
one, make a good movie. Yeah, well, we got to save some of this vamping because not much happens tomorrow. But Greg, can you come back tomorrow to talk about not much happening?
I mean, with a setup like that, how do I not?
I know it's tempting. If you, Alex mentioned our Patreon, one of the benefits, the perks that a Patreon supporter gets is talking to us on our Discord server. If you want to actually talk with us about episodes, you can do that on the Discord server, which you can access if you are a Patreon supporter. If not, you want to just shout at us in the big void of things. There are still some social media platforms, I'm assuming, by this point. Who knows? It's changing week by week. What's what? Who's where? But we're usually Star Wars Minute or The Star Wars Minute on any of those. Instagram, Threads, X. I think we still have what was that other? Mastodon and
The Listener
most of the
Society
ones
on
are Bumble-
Facebook,
Hive. We had a Hive. We had like a Meerkat, whatever.
TikTok. Did you say
But
that already?
TikTok, yeah, we had a TikTok that I was posting stuff regularly, and then it just caught up with me, and I haven't. But I'll post more stuff there as we go on. And the Star Wars Minute Listener Society on Facebook, StarWarsMinute.com/Facebook will get you there. Find us. There's plenty of people who want to hang out and talk about these episodes. Sometimes it's us, sometimes it's not. But we're going to hang out and talk tomorrow on another Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars.
Star Wars Minute.